In Boston Richey's world, the code was simple. What happens between music, us stays between us. Tatiana Chanel lived by that code for 4 years.
We had a trust. He knew I would never say it.
And he dropped a diss track called She Weird, and she dropped music, everything else. Photos of injuries, screenshots, an 8-hour kidnapping, 9 15-year-olds, and Boston Richey got on camera for 11 minutes to fight back.
I'm gonna say this, bro. Well, I hate to say this because I ain't even the type of the internet that's going on the internet. And goddamn speak on my personal life. I always take it to the chin.
This is what happens when 4 years of silence finally runs music out. The attack. Boston Richey has launched a devastating attack on his ex-girlfriend Tatiana Chanel in a surprising video he released just days after she made some staggering accusations against the rapper. For 11 raw, unfiltered minutes, he sat in front of a camera and tore into her motives, her character, her claims with a kind of barely contained fury music that you only see in a man who believes, deeply and completely, that he has been wronged. The video landed on its AGTV DGTL and detonated across social media within the hour. Millions of views, every timeline. And what every single one of those viewers was watching was Boston Richey, music, in his own words, making a deliberate choice to go to war. He opened by telling the world exactly who he was not.
I'm gonna say this, bro. Well, I hate to say this because I ain't even the type of the internet that's going on the internet. And goddamn speak on my personal life, my relationship status, my career, anything that I don't went through. Like I ain't never been a that run to the net and try to speak my behalf on a situation. I always take it to the chin. But it's damaging it when it's like a person you love take advantage and bully you at all costs.
He was not the type to air his business online. He was the music type who took it to the chin, who swallowed the pain, protected the people he loved, and moved music with grace. That was the character he needed you to accept before anything else was said. Because if you believed that version of him, everything that followed landed differently. He was not here because he wanted to be. He was here because she had pushed him past the point any man could endure in silence. And then he laid out what he said this relationship had truly cost him. Lawsuits, blackmail, jail. Music. He said she had used the legal system like a weapon, threatening to contact prosecutors and get his federal music pre-trial conditions violated whenever he didn't send money fast enough, whenever he didn't comply with what she wanted when she wanted it. He said his lawyer had been calling him for months, music, urging him to file a breach of contract lawsuit, that he had the evidence, that he could bury her, and that he had refused every single time because protecting her was the one promise to himself he refused to break.
I done went through everything with this girl, bro, from the lawsuits, bro, from the blackmailing me, put me in jail. Man, I don't even name it. I done went through this. I done went through this with my chest up, my head up, my chest out. I done went through this privately, just as a man.
Then came the cheating confession, and he did not ease into it. He did not dress it up or deliver it with the kind of remorseful care a publicist would have counseled. He dropped it flat on the table.
Oh, I got 100 posts. I got 100 girlfriends from 1 million followers all the way down. I got 100 right now. 50 followers all the way to an M. I'm fucking them, and that's the reason we broke up. I can't stop cheating.
That was the story he was selling. A man who loved a woman but could not stop being unfaithful. Nothing more. Not the abuse allegations, music. Not the exploitation claims, not any of the things Tatiana had put on the record, just infidelity, a survivable sin. He was betting the entire video on the idea that if cheating became the headline, everything else would shrink behind it. On the sexual allegations specifically, music, the claims about what she said he had introduced into the relationship when she was a teenager, he came at those directly, reframing them as nothing more than bitter retaliation. For the breakup.
Oh, you gay, you this, man, this is what it all come down to, because we broke up. He
described his actual sexual habits in deliberate, specific, music detail. Multiple women, rooms full of them, toys present only because of the women involved, music, him watching rather than participating. He was not homophobic, he said. He had no issue with anyone. He simply did not swing that way, and any music person who had ever spent real time in his world already knew that.
If it's toys in the room, oh, I got multiple playing at night, 4, 5 in the room, like go at it, and I don't even fuck them. Cause that's just how I'm pushing my shit.
He addressed the leaked videos too, insisting she had gone through his phone herself, pulled footage he had made with other women, and was now threatening to weaponize it against him as if it were something music he had distributed. He said that was not how any of it worked. And then, buried in the middle of everything, almost casual in its delivery, came the line music, that froze the internet.
Even with the age, the underage, I ain't never going in there and tell nothing about that, tell the truth about that. I always live by one thing: I'm gonna protect you. I'll take it to the chin. As long as you go up, I'm cool with it.
He moved on immediately. No elaboration, no denial, no explanation of what the truth was or why he had chosen not to tell it. Just the acknowledgement, music, that a truth existed and that he had been sitting on it. The internet noticed exactly music. Which questions got answers and which ones got silenced. The 9 underage girls she mentioned, untouched. Music, the 8-hour car ride, untouched. The age she was when specific acts allegedly began, untouched. Every allegation that could matter most in a courtroom was the precise allegation that received, music, no response. What he offered in their place was 100 women and a man who loved too hard. And for most of the people watching, music, that was nowhere near enough. So, what actually brought these two people to this point? To answer that, you have to go back to a diss track, a 4-year relationship, and a set of accusations that stopped music, the entire internet in its tracks. Jalen Foster, before the fame. Before anyone called him Boston Richey, his name was Jalen Taj Foster, and he, music, was from Tallahassee, Florida. He was born on February 4, 1997, and grew up in the kinds of projects and trailer parks that don't make it into rap bios unless the rapper decides to put them there himself. Tallahassee was not a city with a storied hip-hop pipeline. It had not produced a nationally recognized artist since T-Pain in the mid-2000s, and Foster was not in those early years particularly interested in changing that. What he was, music, interested in was the street, the hustle, and the life that comes with both. He was reportedly arrested at 13 in connection with a stolen car case. In the years that followed, his name would surface in connection with armed robbery, grand theft auto, and weapon possession charges. The kind of early legal history that becomes either a cautionary tale or a resume, depending on where you end up. Where he ended up started with Grief, his cousin, who had slept on the floor of his room, shared his shoes, eaten his food, and been woven into the fabric of his daily life with a kind of closeness that makes cousin feel like music. An understatement, was shot and killed. The death devastated Foster, and in the aftermath of that loss, people around him pushed him toward music, as a way to channel what he was carrying. He adopted the name Real Boston Richey, borrowed music, from the Boston George character played by Johnny Depp in the 2001 film Blow, and he started recording. What happened next, music, was, by any metric, remarkable. By 2022, he had released tracks pulling millions of streams and attracting serious attention outside Florida. Future hopped on the remix to his song Bullseye, gave him a custom chain, and signed him, music, to Freebands, transforming Richey from a regional name into a national one almost overnight. His debut mixtape, Music, Public Housing, debuted on the Billboard 200, and his 2024 single Help Me became his first Hot 100 entry, earning a platinum certification. Numbers, music, that 3 years earlier would have seemed impossible from where he was standing. But the street past was never content, music, to stay in the past. In November 2023, Boston Richey and his brother were federally indicted on charges of conspiracy to distribute marijuana and related firearm offenses. He was arrested, released on bond, rearrested for pre-trial violations, and eventually tried twice. In February 2026, music, he walked free after a full acquittal on the retrial, his camp presenting it as proof of his resilience. And music. Then came the tapes. An old interrogation video had been circulating for some time, resurfaced, shared, and dissected in the context of ongoing snitching allegations that had dogged music Boston Richey throughout his rise. In the footage, a teenage Jalen Foster sits across from detectives investigating a homicide in Tallahassee, the murder of his cousin. What the video shows is a young man cooperating with those detectives in substantial detail, offering names, describing suspects, speculating about who was responsible, walking investigators through timelines and locations with a thoroughness that in the world Boston Richey was coming from carries a very music-specific weight.
Yes, I can. That's my cousin.
Well, then why don't you go out and find out?
I'm trying to. I'm hearing so many stories. We call you. Everything we hear, we tell you. It's my cousin. I got this man's name on my neck. This man wore my clothes. This man slept on my floor with me in my room.
He kept going, deeper into the details, further into names and locations and people, walking the detectives through the social circles his cousin moved in, the drugs, music, the alliances, the figures he believed were connected to the night his cousin died. And at one point, he landed on a specific name.
His name Quick. The dude named Quick. The red dude that put the bed Alpine. His name Quentin. They call him Quick.
In street culture, the act of giving names to detectives investigating a homicide, regardless of emotional circumstance, music, regardless of grief, regardless of how one frames cooperation, is a line that once crossed is, music, rarely forgiven. The footage of Jalen Foster sitting in that room Providing that kind of information with that kind of specificity became fuel for a snitching narrative that followed him directly into his music career. Into this atmosphere of contested street credibility stepped Big Homie G, Music, whose commentary on authenticity and rap, offered in a separate interview circulating around the same time, many fans applied Music directly to Boston Richey.
Yo, what's the one thing, man, that's like shocked you about this rap game?
Like, everybody don't be who they say they is. Like, everybody don't be who they say they is in the rap game.
Yeah, because they letting everybody in.
It was a sentiment that hit differently in the context of everything circulating about Boston Richey. Music, the interrogation footage, the federal case, the allegations piling up from his personal music life, and Big Homie G was not done.
Once it starts getting saturated, it's no longer filet mignon. It's like McDonald's and go get you a Big Mac.
No,
That was
man,
cool,
for sure.
bro. That was
Do
cool.
y'all even care though? Like, for example, if y'all find out that a dude is, I'm talking about, he's just rap cap. Like, you feel me? Like, he grew up like me, you feel me? He's a square, but he's talking about being the biggest killer ever.
The picture emerging from all of this was of a man who had constructed an identity with great music care. The street-authenticated Tallahassee rapper made good, and whose foundation was beginning to show cracks from multiple directions, music, at once. What none of that context had yet accounted for was the relationship that would ultimately become the center, music, of everything. When he met Tatiana. Tatiana Chanel was born on January 7, 2006 in Miami, Florida, the daughter of a Haitian father and a Puerto Rican and Cuban mother. By the time she was 16, she had stepped into modeling by pure chance. A school acquaintance needed someone for a shoot. She showed up and the camera liked music, what it saw. She would go on to build a TikTok following climbing toward 1 million and an Instagram presence exceeding 500,000 followers, all built around plus-size fashion, swimwear, and body positivity. She started dating Boston Richey around music 2021 to early 2022. She was approximately 15 turning 16. He was 24 turning 25. The age gap was impossible to miss for anyone paying attention, and people were paying attention. Online commentary about the relationship was, from the very beginning, weighted with concern. A dynamic that Boston Richey himself acknowledged in his May 2026 response video with a kind of weary familiarity, as if he had long since stopped expecting anything different.
Since day one, the first time I seen me and Shawty together, it been negative. It always been negative. Like, even with the age, the underage, I ain't never go on the net and tell nothing about that.
That line, "I ain't never go on the net and tell the truth about that," sits at the very heart of what made his response so damaging to his own position. Because the distinction between never telling a truth and never being asked to tell it is enormous. And in that single sentence, Boston Richey managed to imply that there was a truth to tell while simultaneously refusing to tell it. Tatiana, in her live interview with Messi Maya, which circulated widely alongside her initial posts, described the emotional reality of being that young inside that relationship with a kind of stripped-back clarity that cuts through every layer of spectacle and gets to the thing underneath.
That was the first man I had unprotected with. Yes, I was in love. Yes, I met him at 17 and I was in love. Simple, I was in love.
She was in love. She was a teenager experiencing her first love with a man who was rising in fame, connected to one of hip-hop's most powerful labels, spending money in ways she had never been around, and presenting himself as a protector. The conditions were, to put it plainly, perfectly designed to make a teenager feel chosen and simultaneously make that teenager completely unable to see what choosing her actually meant for someone in his position. What Tatiana says she did not understand at the time was that the relationship had been built on an imbalance she never had the tools to recognize while she was inside it. He was an adult with resources, fame, and a team. She was a minor. Gradually, she became financially and emotionally dependent on a man whose behavior, by her account, was escalating in directions she was too young to fully recognize as dangerous. She says he began music, pressuring her into specific sexual acts when she was 17 years old. She says he sent her money, explicitly music, to purchase items for those acts. She says it happened so often that it became, in her own word, the norm.
A lot of people really want to know about the play. I don't know if you're comfortable about talking about it, but my first question is, how old were you when the whole foreplay even came about?
17.
And how old were you when you were sent to the store to go purchase those items, allegedly?
The photo I posted was not long ago. That was last year, but I've been sent to the store at 17 years old. So I've been getting those items.
She said she was confused the first time that she went along with it. That over time, the confusion faded, Not because she fully understood what was happening, but because it had simply become what music, the relationship was, normalized in the way that things only get normalized when you are young enough and in love enough to let someone else define your normal for you.
Allegedly, I was honestly just a little bit confused, but I was like, you know what? Let's try it out. And we just kept doing it. So.
And if you could say a number of times, when was this done?
It was norm.
Say that again?
The norm.
The norm.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean? A lot of times.
When Messy Maya asked her directly whether she now believed she had been groomed, she paused, and then she answered with more honesty than the question perhaps deserved.
In a sense, do you think that you were groomed at a young age, knowing now that you're like more older and mature?
If you want me to be honest, in the moment, I didn't know or understand. But now I definitely get it more so.
The relationship lasted approximately 3 to 4 years in an on and off music pattern, a relentless cycle of breakups and fractured reconciliations that Tatiana has attributed to a tangle of forces that anyone who has studied abusive relationship dynamics will recognize in an instant. Music, love, financial dependency, fear, emotional coercion, and the paralyzing reality of being threatened by someone who knows exactly where to press. She says that when she tried to leave, he would threaten to kill Music himself. She says that knowing where her family lived made every exit feel like a risk she wasn't sure she could afford to take. She stayed. And then, Music. One night in Houston, what had been building behind closed doors spilled violently into a parking lot. The Houston night. Everything that had been building inside this relationship came crashing to the Music surface during one night in March 2025 in Houston, Texas. Tatiana Chanel, who was reportedly Music pregnant at the time, was with Boston Richey outside a nightclub called Sekai when a confrontation erupted between them. Music. What happened in the car that followed, according to her account reinforced by a video that leaked online showing Boston Richey snatching her phone from her hands with unmistakable aggression, was a sustained physical assault. She says he choked her not once, not in a single burst of rage that passed as quickly as it arrived. She says he choked Music, her approximately 20 times inside a vehicle while she was carrying his child. A warrant was Music issued, a felony family violence charge was filed against him in Houston, and because Boston Music Richey was at that moment still subject to strict pre-trial conditions tied to his federal drug and firearm case, conditions that governed where he could go, who he could be around, and what kinds of legal trouble he was permitted to invite, the Houston arrest sent him straight back into detention in April 2025. The domestic violence case remained pending as of May 2026 with a hearing reportedly scheduled around May 20th. Tatiana did what she had always done, filed a report, pressed charges, and never dropped Music them. She landed in Miami and went directly to a police station and was told that because the incident had not happened in Miami, there was little Music they could do beyond noting it on record. She filed it anyway. She always filed them. By the time everything exploded publicly, that folder of documentation had grown to 65 pieces of evidence across 4 years. In the months after Houston, Tatiana alleges Boston Richey made Music attempts to contain the fallout, including an offer of $400,000 to reconcile or stay quiet. She said she turned it down. What she wanted, she said, was not money. It was for him to get Music help. It did not change. What changed instead was the music. Early in 2026, Boston Richey began promoting a new song. The song was called She Weird. By Tatiana's account, he had been actively sending it her way through third parties, through social media, through channels designed to make sure she heard it for 3 weeks before its release. The lyrics, she said, were clearly aimed at her, specific enough that only the two of them would have understood some of it. Pointed enough that the intent was unmistakable. She issued a warning. 9 hours before the song was scheduled to drop, she posted publicly, "If this song comes out, the receipts come with it." She gave him a door. He walked through it, going the other direction.
And I promise you, I posted 9 hours before the song was gonna drop, I said, hey, if you drop this song, I'm gonna just post these receipts. I gave him the option to, back out of it, and he decided to drop the song, so I dropped the receipts. Did I want to? Absolutely not. That's something that's supposed to be personal.
He had calculated, presumably, that she would not follow through, that the relationship dynamic, the one in which she had protected him, stayed quiet, absorbed music, the hits, and filed the reports, and never said a word publicly, would hold that she would absorb this too. He was wrong in a way that became immediately and comprehensively apparent. The full weight of the revelations. What Tatiana Chanel released when she decided to follow through was not a social media clapback. What she released was documentation, photographs of injuries with timestamp precision, screenshots of financial transfers, music tied to specific acts, and a video on a black screen with one repeating message, "Get music him the help he needs." And then she went live. The interview with Messy Maya gave the story dimensions that the post alone could not. She walked through the Orlando to Alabama incident in concrete, unsparing terms, describing the moment she found out on her own 18th birthday that Boston music Richey had slept with her best friend of 7 years. Not the night before her birthday, not weeks earlier, on her birthday in the hotel room where she was supposed to be celebrating while she was at her aunt's house being sick, music, from drinking.
Well, it was my 18th birthday, and I found out he slept with my best friend of 7 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
What?
And a friend of her had told me. And then I confronted him about it. I confronted her about it. She admitted it. She said she was drunk. She walked in the room. They slept with each other on my birthday right before I got to the hotel.
When she told him she was leaving, that she was done, that this was over, that she said was the exact moment the violence began. Not a raised voice, not a slammed door. The moment she said she was leaving, she was wrapped in a white sheet and placed in the back of a car.
As soon as I made it clear that I was done, that's when I got wrapped in a white sheet.
Oh, wow. So then I had seen that you were in the car with several other individuals. Nobody cared to stop this or break it up?
No,
Take control
these
about it?
are his, we call them lap dogs.
Got it.
So you have the big dog and you have the puppies. They're the puppies.
8 hours, Orlando music, to Alabama. Multiple men in the car who, she says, did not intervene. Men who she described as active participants in enabling what was happening by virtue of their silence and their presence. Music. She says they condoned it. She says they helped him. She said, with a weight that settled over the entire conversation, that they were a part of the problem as much as he was. She eventually made it to Alabama, booked a flight, and flew back to Miami, where she immediately went to a police station and filed a report. She never dropped those charges. Music. The documentation existed, and she kept adding to it over years methodically. Every incident, every altercation, music, every piece of evidence she could preserve. She also described the scope of what she was alleging beyond her own experience. She said she had personally spoken to 9 girls who were 15 years old, each with their own account of what Boston Richey had allegedly done to them. Predatory behavior, the sharing of intimate material without consent, the same patterns playing out with other girls who were also too young to understand that what was happening to them had a name. At least one other woman, identified in reports as a former associate named ARAJ, has allegedly corroborated elements of Tatiana's account regarding how certain material from Boston Richey's private life was being circulated without the knowledge or consent of the women involved.
I want to clear this up too, because a lot of people always ask, why did you stay? Why didn't you leave? When you have somebody, when you're with somebody and you're being threatened to either be killed or being threatened that they're going to themselves, it's not easy to leave.
She addressed, preemptively and head-on, the question that was already forming in the comments beneath every music post about her. Why did she stay? She stayed because he threatened to kill himself whenever she tried to leave. She stayed because he knew exactly where her family laid their heads. She stayed because she was a teenager and her first love, and leaving music was never the clean, simple decision that people who have never been inside that kind of situation imagine music it to be. The public reaction landed overwhelmingly against Boston Richey, with a smaller but vocal segment questioning Tatiana's timing, pointing out that the diss track was what finally drew her out. Her supporters pushed back hard. The reason a person speaks does not determine the truth, music, of what they say. The photographs existed before the song. The police reports existed before the song. None of that was manufactured music. In the 24 hours after a track dropped, Tatiana addressed the timing herself.
We had a trust. He knew I would never say it, but like I said, I left him 3 months ago, and he's been antagonizing me since I left him. And it's only so much a person could tolerate before they just crash out.
And she made clear that the storm was not over, that after everything went live, threats had already started arriving.
So moving forward, did you think that in any situation that you may come across of let's just say if you're out in public or anything like that, do you think that he may be the type to stalk you or have others stalk you?
Yes, I'm already receiving threats.
She had moved, and the documentation she had spent 4 years building, 65 music files, photographs, police reports, screenshots, was now sitting on the public record in a way that number 11-minute video could walk back. The 2025 felony domestic violence case remains pending. No new charges have been filed on the May 2026 allegations as of the time of this script. Both sides have told their story. Only a court of law gets to decide the music legal truth of what happened between them. But this much is settled. A young woman documented everything, and the man at the center of her account spent 11 minutes telling the world he could not stop cheating, and said almost nothing about the claims that could actually put him in a cell. Music. Loved this video? Click on this card for more.